Hello, everyone. Hey, Amina.
Hi, Cherie. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
How's your week been? You've started a new
Oh,
job.
yes. My week has been it's been okay. It hasn't been super crazy, but just an adjustment with the whole like working from home thing. And the working from home
Mm-hmm.
thing is just a temporary situation while I'm doing orientation, just getting myself up to date with all the certifications that I need. But just getting myself back into a routine is nice. It's definitely a
Mm-hmm.
challenge, but it's good to have some sort of, like structure um,
Yes.
to my life right now. So
Very nice.
I'm really happy about it.
That's great. Well, it's good
Mhm.
to hear that you're enjoying the new job as well. So
Thank you.
it's always fun starting something new, but also very nerve wracking, I think.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like I'm back
Yeah.
in school, learning everything again. But as soon as I get out there and start actually doing the job I'm supposed to do, then I know it's gonna be great.
Yeah, of course, of course. And hi, everyone. Hey, Tara. You made it.
Yay!
Nice. Who
Welcome.
else is
We have
here?
CB here as well. Hi, CB.
Hey, CB. Yeah, so today is a pretty relaxed chit chat, really. You and I, and it's not just you and I, there's a few other people, I think, after 2020 and the madness that was 2020 and the constant online shopping that everyone did.
Yeah.
We have decided to do a little bit of a low buy, I guess. I did consider doing a no buy, but I thought that might be a little bit too ambitious
Yeah.
and that
I have to take it easy, even
possibly
and slowly.
that's right. No point causing myself physical pain just to prove a point. So
Exactly.
so we have decided to do a little bit of a low buy and ease up on the buying this year.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be a good thing to talk about because it seems to be that a few people are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know how different people are approaching it, and how, we're a quarter of the way through the year just about now, and I'm curious to know how it's going because I think I've had varying levels of success at different times. I started
Yeah.
off really strong, as you would expect, but I kind of fell off the wagon a bit this month. I think I've got a
Oh
bit.
no.
There's been a couple of purchases, and I wouldn't say that they were rash purchases, although one I probably could have thought about a little bit more. But most of them were ones that I kind of knew I wanted.
Okay.
And I really had to sort of stop myself the other day from
Going in there.
from making some rash purchases, but we'll get into that. But
Okay.
first of all, I guess hello to everyone who's just joined. And so first question, I guess, was what was your reason for wanting to do this low
Well,
buy?
I think before I get into that, I want to, as you said, 2020 was a very interesting year for a lot of us. And I
Yeah.
think it was also the year where I guess I would say I always had a lot of fragrances, not nearly as much as I do now, of course. But 2020 was a year where I really like dove deep and I noticed how often I was blind buying because we couldn't go into stores and sample anything. I mean, I could have very well ordered samples online, but instead I was blind buying full bottles. And I would say I put maybe 3 or 4 orders in a month. My DHL delivery man, like we were on first name basis. Like that's that's too much because he'd always come and deliver boxes. So after a while, then I realized, okay, I have a huge collection of all these fragrances, but I'm not crazy about all of them. You know what I mean? Some of them are
Mm-hmm.
relevant to the, compared to things that I already had. And I was also falling into the hype with YouTube because, again, 2020 was a year where I watched a lot of YouTube. I discovered a lot of fragrance channels, and I felt that I had to buy a lot of the fragrances that were hyped. Then I quickly
Yep.
learned that my taste is not the same as everyone else's because I tried these fragrances and realized, okay, I don't like this. I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
why. So I guess the why I decided to go on a low buy this year, or I guess the start of this year, which I hope to continue. I want to kind of make it a thing, and this is going to be the way I shop from now
Mm-hmm.
on. And it's just to stop wasting money mindlessly and really think about the purchases before I make them. And that way I find that I treasure them a bit more because I've spent more time with them, in sample version rather than just buying a full bottle. And I
Yes.
become obsessed because sometimes you'll sample a fragrance, right? And then you'll wear it a couple times and then you could just forget about it. And then that means you don't really like the fragrance if you can just forget about it and it's never on your mind afterwards. So for me, I'm focusing more on getting fragrances that after I get the sample, I just cannot stop thinking about. So, okay, this fragrance is one of
Yes.
a kind. I have nothing like this in my collection. I need it. It's something
Yeah.
special. So yeah, I guess, yeah, like I said, the reason why I just be mindful of my purchases. I am an adult and I have financial goals as well that I want to meet. And I feel like by controlling the way I spend and buy fragrances, it'll definitely help with a lot of other things. So yeah.
Definitely. I'm a bit the same. I've ended up with a lot of fragrances in my collection. I mean, I already had quite a big collection, by normal person standards, before 2020 started. I mean, I think I already had over 100 bottles at the beginning of 2020. And I decluttered a lot of bottles in 2020. But somebody actually asked me the other day, how many do you have at the moment? And so I quickly went around and just counted them. And I haven't actually, with all the decluttering that I've done, I've actually made no progress in actually reducing it hasn't grown more, but it's still about the same. And I'm just going all that effort to try and declutter these bottles. And I've ended up, because of the amount of buying that I did in 2020, I've just ended up with the same amount effectively.
Yeah.
So that's been a problem for me and frustrating as well, because it takes a lot of effort and time to get rid of bottles. Even if you just want to give them away, it's actually really hard. Because not everybody is into it like we are. Right, exactly. So yeah, it is hard. So I was a bit the same. I just found that there was lots of fragrances in my collection that were perfectly fine. And it's not that I disliked them. It's just that I didn't really love them. And if I was going to choose to wear something for the day, I would pick something else over those. And that was kind of my rationale originally, to start getting rid of bottles. Yeah. But it becomes, and I've even noticed now, even this month, there's been a couple that I've come across that I really, really loved. And like you say, you're sampling them and you get really kind of obsessed. When you sample something that you really like, you become really obsessed with it to start with. And it's like you just can't stop thinking about it. And you know that you really like it, and you think, I'm really going to want to wear this again. But then the bottle comes and you might wear it once or twice, and then it sits on the shelf and you're on to the next thing. So I've seen this kind of behavior in myself before with other things. And I just thought, okay, this is getting beyond, this is no longer just about, it is about, the curiosity of perfume and wanting to smell things and really appreciating it. But I can still appreciate it just by sampling. I don't have to go out and buy massive bottles and have a huge collection of perfume, because I can just have the samples and make the notes and remember them that way. And if I really, really want them down the track, chances are I'm probably going to be able to get them. But I think there's also this sort of this lack mindset where you sort of think, oh, it's going to get discontinued, or what if it's not around when I want it later on. But the fact is, even if I want it, the chances of me remembering in 5 years' time that there was a specific perfume that I sampled and I really, really want that exact perfume, pretty slim, because I've just found that I'm constantly, excited or not excited, as the case may be, by the new stuff coming out. And, or I discover new old things like vintage stuff. And I just think, well, there's always going to be something else. It might not be the same, but there's going to be something that I will like. So I don't have to have that specific thing. So anyway, so that was kind of my rationale behind it. And plus I was just running out of room. I had no room to put new bottles.
I think for me, when I moved or relocated from, Scotland to home in Houston, I began living with my parents. So I don't have the space that I had before. And then when my fragrances got shipped and they finally landed here at my door, then I was looking at everything thinking, why do I have all of this stuff? This is too much. It's taking up too much room. I have to find space for them. And I think that was when I realized, okay, I mean, you need to chill. You need to slow down. Although I really did, I kept buying, even after that, but I was selling and buying, selling and buying, selling and buying to kind of make up for that. And then I realized again, I have, what's the word? I just make rash decisions. I don't really think about it. For example, I'll get a sample set or I'll get a sample of a fragrance. Someone sends me something and I will literally smell it on a piece of paper or on my hand, smell it for like 5 minutes. Like, I need to have it. I love it. I'm in love, and I didn't give myself time to really find out what the fragrance is doing on my skin and if it's changing in any way. I'm just buying it off of my first impressions, and that's not always the case, which I've learned eventually when I get a fragrance and see how it transitions. I'm like, wait, I don't remember it doing that in the samples because I didn't give it time when I sampled it. And I think that's what I've realized lately is not to just make a decision right off the bat. Take the sample, put it on, wear it for a few days. I have a whole 2 ml. I can use the whole 2 ml or maybe 1.5, whatever. But just before, it'll be literally 1 or 2 sprays. And I would base my entire purchase off of just that. And it's not a good habit, And I remember we talked about this before and how sometimes, at least for me, I'm a person with a very addictive personality. I can get caught up into things really quickly. And I even felt that it sounds really silly to say I had a fragrance addiction because I think to an extent I had an addiction to buying, just the whole process of searching things up and adding to cart and just buying without really considering, okay, do I really need this? This sounds like it's, it sounds like the fragrance that I have. Do I really need it? Maybe I should get a sample instead. No, I'll just buy it. And then I'll just sit there at the door and I can't wait. And I'm all giddy. I can't wait for it to come. And then I open it, smell it, spray it, and then put it on the shelf. And then it's on to the next. Just like you said, we're always on to the next. So
yes,
I feel like a lot of us are like that, where we're just obsessed with making that purchase and the excitement of getting something new. I had to, sit myself down and think, you don't need. I remember, Shri, I used to have sometimes in one day I'd have 5 packages at the door. And it was embarrassing, especially coming home with my parents. They're like, this is what you're doing with your money, buying all this fragrance. And this happened at one point, almost every day. I would have 1 or 2 packages come in for me, regularly.
Yes, I know. Same. Matt, and I live with Matt, obviously, and he'd be like, another one? Just and there were days where, because sometimes I was buying office equipment too because we were working from home, and I'd have to say to him, no, this is not perfume. This is from Officeworks or from Amazon or something, from my, I needed a new webcam or something like that, and they'd be like, no, it's for work. It's not, it's not perfume. But I know it's the rush of, that new thing. But then there was always immediately, most of the time, followed by disappointment because it was never, it never smelled. It was never this magical perfume that would, solve all of your perfume woes and just go, yes, okay, this is the one that I now want to wear for the rest of my life type of thing. It was always, okay, it smells like it did when I sampled it, and it's nice, and there it goes on the shelf, and I'll get back to it later. And you never do. You never do.
Exactly.
So, and there's also, the more perfumes that I gathered, the more I sort of felt the pressure to make sure that I cycle through them. But then I'm also trying to sample things as well. And it was funny because I was watching Chris and Camille's video on a fragrance addiction tag that they did yesterday. And they were talking that they were really surprised at how many fragrances people would wear a day. So they say like they wear 2 max. And I was thinking, I think I said maybe 3 or 4. Yeah, because I'm constantly. And then I was thinking, I mean, it's just this constant. Maybe I wouldn't be doing that if I just didn't have so many perfumes. So sure, I'd sample things, but would I be trying to have a morning scent, a day scent, an afternoon scent, and an evening scent? Would I really need to do that if I didn't feel the pressure to wear the stuff that I've spent money on and getting, feeling like I'm getting my money's worth out of this collection? So, and it sort of takes away the enjoyment of wearing the ones that you actually really do love, because you're going, when I was going through that phase of really loving Une Rose Chypre, which I still really love, by the way, but, I wore that probably several times a week for a couple of months. And, now, but then I got to a point and I was going, I can't just keep wearing this all the time. I've got to wear I'm ignoring all these other ones that I've got and I need to go and wear them. So, and then it sort of takes away the pleasure of just wearing the ones that you really love just because you really love them.
Right.
So,
so very good point. Very good point. Like the same with sticking with one fragrance. Lately, I've been really obsessed with one of the most recent purchases I made, which was Papillon Artisan Perfumes, Bengal Rouge. I got it as a birthday gift for myself. So my birthday was last month. And I've been wearing it at least twice a week since I got it. And then I'm like, wait, how about the other ones then? So then it's a lot of pressure. It's like, okay, this week I'm going to try and wear 5 fragrances in my collection that I haven't worn in a while. But it doesn't really have to be that case. And if it is the case, do you really need those fragrances if you don't reach for them? But then it also goes hand in hand with our hobby. It's like our hobby is fragrance. And a lot of the times we have them for reference as well. There's some fragrances that I have that I don't wear all the time because either I feel like it's not appropriate for like an everyday casual wear, or I'd rather have it there for reference so that I can compare it to others that I come across in the future. I could have those as samples as well. And recently I actually did a huge purge of my collection where he was right. Rudy's hit it on it. Got to catch them all, right? But I did a huge purge of my collection because I realized, okay, I'm not liking gourmands as much as I did before. And I think I remember Pep did a video once about how it seems like in our fragrance journey, we tend to start off with your sweeter, more gourmands, and then you kind of get over those and then you start venturing into others. So I'm at that point now where I don't care for gourmands. So what I did just to have those as reference was that I decanted the ones that I had and then just sold the rest. And it was so refreshing to see my shelves just, bottles disappearing one by one. And I feel like I can breathe. That sense of relief was very satisfying. So
I totally agree. And then, part of I've been doing something similar. So that I've given away some bottles or sold a couple where it kind of hurt, I was sort of going, oh, but I've loved this fragrance for so long. And there were ones that I've worn for years and years. And, it was just like the 3rd bottle or something that I'd bought because it's, I just always want to have it in my collection. And then I realized that, well, do I really want to have it in my collection? Because I don't ever wear them anymore. My tastes have changed. And so that's what I did. I took decants and sold the rest or got rid of the rest. And at first I thought, when I first put it in the mail to post it off, I was like, oh, this is really hurting. But am I going to miss this? Am I going to want to buy it again in 2 months' time? And I haven't missed them at all. Is the answer to that question. So, but the taste changing thing, and I think it works both ways too, though, because I was kind of the opposite. I started getting into fragrances and liking fragrances like vetivers and things like that weren't sweet, and I wanted them to be fairly light. And I gravitated more towards masculine fragrances when I started, I guess, wearing perfume. I think possibly that's because my father, my first perfume was that bottle of 4711 that my dad gave me. So maybe it's his fault. But I didn't really start getting into sweet stuff until 2019, and which was when I started getting exposed to all these new things through Fragcom, because I started my Instagram account. And it's kind of weird. I went the opposite way. I went from not sweet to wanting sweet fragrances because it was something completely new to me. And now I'm starting again to go back the other way. But because I know that my tastes change all the time, that makes it harder for me to give up the bottles as well, because I sort of think I don't want to have to buy this again in a year or something, because I know I really love it, but I just at the moment I just don't happen to be going through a sweet phase. But then I sort of sat myself down and thought, well, okay, but you've got if I really take in everything in my collection, I probably have maybe 10 vanillas, right? So how many vanillas do you need? If you get a sweet craving, you probably just need one. And that's it.
Sitting right there.
The one that I want the most, the one that I gravitate towards the most, that's the one I keep, and I should just get rid of the rest.
Right.
So it's a funny thing. I was listening to this girl, Christina, who has a YouTube channel as well, but her channel is not about perfume. She's more of a fashion blogger.
Okay.
But she's been going through this process over the last few years of, trying to minimize what she brings in, and she's going through a bit of a minimalism phase, and she's just, documenting all of that. And she said something that really resonated with me the other day in one of her videos, because she said that it's, a lot of the time, particularly, in 2020, when we were locked inside and we didn't have much exposure, if any, to the outside world, and buying perfumes and things like that was like a form of self-care almost, people, and I know I told myself this, is like, I'm buying this, I'm getting it because, what else am I going to do right now? And and it makes me feel good. And I was just saying, it makes me feel good to smell these things, so I'm going to have it. But the flip side to that is that if you're spending money that you probably shouldn't be spending, or that you could be putting towards other things, like even just an emergency fund that, in case you lose your job because of COVID or whatever, if you've got that if you've got that hanging over you, and you're buying stuff because you're saying it's my form of self-care and I deserve it, you probably do, but it's not really self-care if you're causing yourself anxiety over something else. And I wouldn't say I haven't gone into debt over this perfume stuff, but I just, all I can think about is, my gosh, what could I have done with that money if otherwise, if I hadn't have bought that perfume. So it's kind of a hard thing to accept or to come to terms with, I guess, and to be that honest with myself.
Absolutely. And this is an expensive hobby. Fragrances are not cheap, okay?
They are not. And the more you get into the non-mainstream stuff, a lot of people that I talk to go, oh, I really I would love to buy a bottle of, Chanel No. 5, but it's so expensive. And to me, I'm going, Chanel No. 5 is not expensive. And then I think, hang on a minute, Cherie, just get your perspective right, okay? It is expensive, and it is not normal to pay $400 for a bottle of perfume. It's just not.
You're absolutely right. And I always have to remind myself about that too, especially when my friends ask, like, I'm like, oh, I got this new perfume here, try. And they're like, well, you're like, oh, it's nice. I want it. How much is it? And then I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know you were going to ask about the price, because I know if I tell them how much I paid for it, they're going to be like, what the hell's wrong with you? For example, me and my best friend went to, was it not Saks, Nordstrom's here in Houston. And she went to the Parfums of Marley counter, and she smelled Delina. And I know how popular Delina is. So I was curious to know how, try Delina. You might like this one, because I think I know her taste in fragrance right now. And I had a feeling she would like Delina. So she tested it, and she's like, yeah, this is really nice. And she asked the guy at the counter, how much is it? How much is it? And I forget how much it is retail, but she was like, what? What? How many hundreds of dollars? So yeah, that's the thing. You have to kind of, I just sometimes feel embarrassed when I'm talking to my friends and family about it. But my mom, like one of my birthday was last month, and that was the month that I would say I spent the most on fragrance in a while, I think. Yeah, in a while. But I said it was my birthday. And then all of the fragrances that I got were also fragrances that I had samples of, and I've been nursing those samples since like the end of 2020. And one of them, I asked my mom, the most expensive one. She's like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, "Well, I have this fragrance I have been having my eye on. Maybe you can get it for me." And even telling her how much that was, I was like, should I tell her? Or should I just, or should I just have her get something else? But yeah, the price, it can be a lot. And if we're buying at a massive rate, just imagine, like you said, what you could do with all of that money that you spend on fragrance.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And I kind of justified it to myself because I'm thinking, well, I'm not using I'm not paying for the bus because I'm not going to the office. I'm not using Ubers. We're not going out for dinner.
Yeah.
All those things that you would normally, your money might, get consumed by through normal life.
Mm-hmm.
It did sort of, it was quite substantial really when I sat down and went, okay, now that we're not doing all this stuff, I actually do have quite a lot of money sitting aside that would normally just disappear. Right. And, some of those things you can't avoid when you are back at the office and things like that. You do have to get to the office, so you have to go to public transport if you live too far from the city or whatever. But there were lots of things that did sort of open up my eyes to, okay, I can now put all this money towards perfume, but also when I go back to normal life, am I going to spend money on these things that I have been spending money on? I mean, it's just been disappearing, and without me even really noticing. And I'm going, now because I went out for lunch yesterday. I caught up with some frag head people locally, and just a couple of girls, and we just caught up for lunch. And I was thinking, this is the first time I have been out for lunch since February last year.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I haven't had a meal out apart from, I think Matt took me out for dinner on Valentine's Day. But we don't ever go out for dinner or lunch or anything anymore. I never buy my coffees anymore because I just think I'm so used to just making them at home now. Yeah. And I just think, wow, it's just such a weird mindset to, before I never really even noticed that. But the thing is now, the mindset is I don't really notice it when I buy perfume, and I've really had to force myself this year in this low buy to sort of make myself really conscious about what I'm actually purchasing because, otherwise it just becomes one of those things that you just spend money on like a coffee or whatever, and you don't even think about it. So it's really interesting. Jonathan, it's interesting that you use that example because my partner Matt is he plays the guitar. He's a very good guitarist, and he has several guitars, and they take up a whole room. Basically, we have a room downstairs, and they live in there, and they take up the whole room. And I remember when we first got together, I'm going, "You have how many guitars?"
Now, like, you have how many perfumes?
Yeah, exactly. So it's I really can't tease him about that now. So it's crazy. So so the self-care thing is one that really kind of hit home because I'm thinking if I'm creating anxiety for myself because I feel guilty. Anxiety in the form of guilt because I know that I don't really need these things and I'm just buying them.
Is it really self-care in that case?
Exactly. The I deserve it argument is not really doing it for me at the moment.
If buying those things won't give you a peace of mind, then you don't stop it. Stop.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, that's so true. I'm just going to try and catch up on these. There's been a lot of discussion.
Which is good because I was very curious to know what other people, think about it as well. I mean, I've seen people go through, bouts of no buys and low buys, and they kind of, after a month or so, they go right back to how they normally spent. And for me, I don't want to do that. Like I said, I want to make it just the way that I shop from now on, the way that I spend money on fragrances from now on is that and I'm not going to put like a monetary value or like I will never spend a fragrance that costs money. If I love the fragrance and I feel like it makes a difference in my collection, it has a space for it, like it's filling a void in my collection, then I will buy it. But I'm just that whole like, oh my God, it smells good. Buy. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work through my samples before, and it's hard to do it too sometimes because I'm like, oh, maybe I should let me just buy it now in case it runs out, or and then I feel bad too because, as a lot of you guys know, I like to support indie brands and artist brands, and I feel like I'll get samples, and sometimes I feel like, well, maybe it's all in my head, but I want them to know that I love I'm enjoying it, but I don't want to just go out and buy it just for the sake of buying it, if you know what I mean. And then, so I think right now that's my main struggle, because there are a few fragrances that I want to get from like small indie brands, ones that I actually like talk to, and I'm telling myself, don't rush out to buy it. But then I'm thinking, well, will they think that I don't like their stuff if I don't buy it?
If you don't get a bottle after you've bought the sample,
And I know for sure there's a few that I want, but I'm really trying to like, use a fine-tooth comb. Do I really, it's kind of sift the ones that I don't want. And I don't know, sometimes it puts me in a weird spot, because as much as I want to support, I also am trying to control my habit.
And I'm pretty sure, I know the mindset. I'm pretty sure if the perfumers wouldn't want you to overextend yourself just to buy their bottle of perfume.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting point, because I mean, I had this idea, when I first started this YouTube channel, I was thinking I thought it would be easier than Instagram, for instance, because with Instagram, it's all about the photos. And if you don't have the nice bottle, it's really hard to do the nice photo, right? And it's just a fact that if you're just posting photos of samples and talking about them, there are people that really enjoy those posts because they just want to know about the perfume, but it doesn't get as much traction because it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing. So there's that. And then when I started the YouTube channel, I thought, well, it'll be easier because I don't really need the bottle to just talk about it. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to talk about it. And I thought, I don't need the bottle. But then what I found was that people were DMing me or sending me messages going, so did you buy the bottle? You really liked it that much. Did you buy it? And then I was feeling like, if I say no, that I didn't buy the bottle, or I didn't feel like I didn't want to spend the money to buy the bottle, I feel like it's almost like then they don't, if I say that I really like something, they'll go, oh, well, you obviously didn't really like it then. I'm going, well, it's not that. It's just that I've got 50 to, I've got 150 bottles already, or what do I need another one for? It's nice to know that there's something, that it's really good and that I really like this perfume, but I don't really necessarily need to own it. And so there was kind of a little bit of pressure on that, actually, because I did have quite a few people messaging me sort of early on, after a few months into my YouTube channel. I don't get it so much anymore, but people would ask me, did you end up buying a full bottle of that? And I was like, no, I didn't. And then it was kind of like, but I did really like it. I promise you, I really liked it. So I wasn't just hyping it up or something, but it's a hard one. I don't know. I feel the sampling thing, and the other thing too was that I would get into this. I had this idea that if I had a sample of something that I really liked, and like you, I smell it and I go, oh, it's amazing. I just want to buy it. And I was thinking, well, I'd say to myself, okay, well, no, you've got to finish the sample first. Give it a proper wear, blah blah blah. And I'd be like, I'd get maybe halfway through the sample, and I'd be going, but if I keep this bit of the sample and then buy the bottle, then I can give this sample to somebody else and they can try it, and then I won't have to decant it. And it was just like the arguments that I can come up with, or the justifications, I should say, that I can come up with in my mind for buying a bottle. I when I sit down and think about it logically, I just it's crazy. It's crazy.
I totally understand. Because we've been there. We've all been there. I'm pretty sure every single person in the chat has been there at one point. But how is your low buy going currently? Like how are you doing?
Well, it's going. Look, the act of having to select. So my low buy, the way I'm doing it is, if I buy a bottle, I have to get rid of something.
Mm-hmm.
And by a bottle, I mean, even if I buy a, not a full size bottle, but because there was a house that I was looking at a couple of months ago, I think Premier or something, I think they were called. And so they come in the little tiny 6 ml or 100 ml. I didn't want 100 ml, so I had to buy the 6 ml. And I thought, well, it's a proper bottle, so that counts,
It has an atomizer, so I guess,
That's right. So it comes in a fancy box. It's got to be right. It's got to be a bottle. So that has been a bit of a game changer in terms of, if I'm bringing something in, I have to let something go. Yeah. And I think it's having, two kind of outcomes for me. One, it slows down my buying because I think, okay, if I have to, and because I'm documenting it publicly, I feel like I really need to stick to it. Yeah. So
it holds you accountable.
So that in itself slows me down because I'm thinking, well, do I love this more than something else in my collection at the moment? And at the moment, it's probably fairly easy because I have, close to 200 bottles. It's crazy. It's stupid. Yeah. So at the moment, it's fairly easy. Well, the first few months it was easy, but then this month just gone. But what I also try to do is try as much as possible to match the value. Not that I'm expecting to get that value back when I get rid of the bottle, but if I'm buying a $300 bottle of perfume, I feel like I need to get rid of something that I paid close to that amount for. So it's just to prevent me from going, okay, well, now I'm just going to buy $300 bottles of perfume. I'm going to buy a few Xerjoffs and I'm just going to get rid of some designers over here. Yeah. No, that's not going to work. Yeah, so I have to try and match the value, not the value that I will sell it for or whatever, but the value that I bought them for. Yeah. So, and if I can't find a $300 bottle that I want to replace it with, then I have to, pick several bottles to match the value.
Exactly.
So that it's just these rules are sort of coming together as I go because I can see myself I saw myself sort of getting into little patterns where I go, I'll just get rid of this bottle, but it was worth, $20, and then I was buying a $150 bottle or something. So I just thought, no, I have to try and match the value. Which I hope is actually going to help me reduce my collection overall, because at the moment this one in, one out isn't actually helping me to reduce the number.
Especially if you're looking at like high dollar, or like expensive. I'm like, high dollar. You guys use dollars, right? Australian dollars. So
Australian dollars. So yeah. So when you guys, because it's one of the things when I hear people, in other countries go, oh, it's $150. I'm going, bargain, and then I get on and actually it's US. And then you got shipping on top of that, so it's like not really $150. So so there is that. So it's going okay. March was challenging because I don't know why, it was just I guess a dip in my resolve where there were things that because I started sampling a bit more, I guess, too, and some people sent me some really cool samples. So I had sort of ended up with, some really good samples that I quite liked. And it really did sort of test my resolve because there were lots of things that I liked. And then I was thinking, I kind of had this little voice in my head going, but you've been so good for January and February. You're allowed to have a little... Yeah. And then I really had to sort of go, okay, because I was testing Memoir Woman last week, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
But I just bought Beloved, in February. So I just thought, okay. And then there's a guy here locally who often has the Amouage fragrances that he gets the testers, and so he sells them a bit cheaper than you can buy them in the store. Right. So I sort of messaged him and said, you wouldn't happen to have a bottle of Memoir, would you? And he goes, no, I don't. I was like, damn it. And then I was going, oh, I guess I'm just going to have to pay full retail for it. And then I just went, stop. Just stop, Sheree. Stop it. I was like, no, because I did actually buy another sort of significant bottle this month, which I'll talk about in another video. But I'm just like, okay, I can't buy another bottle this month that's worth more than $100. This is crazy. So, it's going okay. This month was harder. I'd say January, February were easy. I hardly bought anything in. Was it February or January? It was one month where I kind of barely bought anything, and everything was sort of older bottles and secondhand. So I actually my financial outlay was minimal. But then this month I actually bought a couple of new bottles, and I bought some stuff from sample sets and stuff from DSH, and so the financial outlay was higher, even though didn't buy necessarily all full bottles, but even just buying samples and discovery sets it adds up. It adds up. So and then. The other thing too is that discovery sets are great, but then there's usually only ever one or two from the whole line that maybe resonates with you, that you really like. And then you've got all the, you end up with these massive discovery sets that you just think, well, that was such a waste of money. I could have just bought the one sample that I wanted to try. Occasionally I find, I get a discovery set and there's something else in there that I would never have looked at, that I go, oh, that's, a surprise, and I didn't expect to like that one. But it's going okay, but it was harder this month. So, but I just had to really kind of get myself back into the mindset of not just sniffing and then buying, just sit with it for a while, have it for a few weeks. Yeah, it is. You've got to allow yourself, to move on to other things and forget about those ones for a bit. And if you come back to them, I think that's kind of been the way I've been trying to do it. If I keep coming back to it, then maybe that's something worthwhile.
Exactly.
Adding to my collection.
Right. I think for me, it's kind of been the opposite, actually. It was harder at the beginning. January, honestly, was a blur. I don't remember what I bought. But I think I bought that in January. Whenever Michelle came to visit the first time, I think that was in January, I bought a Frederick Mall. And in February, I got 3 fragrances for my birthday, which I just brought here just in case. I don't know. But I bought, and all of these are kind of expensive fragrances, but like I said earlier, there are ones that I spent a lot of time with that I just couldn't stop thinking about. And I knew right away, out of my wish list, these were the ones that I wanted the most. And one of them is Bortnikov, which you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about, but it is what it is. Chypre du Nord, which is just a beautiful.
So keen to try that one. Yeah.
Sample it if you can. It's lovely.
Enabler.
Well, I'm saying sample. And this one, it's funny how I got to get this, or got to be introduced, because it was my first Bortnikov. The 6th collection, which I think came out in November. I ordered decants solely because I was curious about the brand. I'd never tried anything from them, and I heard really good things. And someone on Facebook was doing the split. So they were ordering all 3 fragrances from that collection, and then they would just divvy them up depending on how much you want. You could have 5 mils, you can have 10 mils. I just said I want 5 mils of each. And I also want to do a review on them. So I got them, and this was the one I fell in love with. So I have a little bit left out of my 5 ml decant, but it's one that I thought, okay, if I could pick a birthday gift, it's this one. I want this. This is the most expensive one, and I'm also really obsessed with it. So that's how I got this one. With this Vogue Mai, I got a sample, I think, at the end of the year from Lucky Scent, and I spent loads of time with it. And the more I wore it, every time I wore it, I just became more and more obsessed with it. So as soon as I could, birthday, I was like, this is my birthday gift to me. And also Bengal Rouge by Papillon is one that I also sampled via Lucky Scent Samples. And I liked it at the beginning, and then I tried to sample again and I didn't like it. And then I tried to sample again and was like, wait a minute, things are happening here. Tried it several times, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I really, really love this. And I ended up getting, but that was in February. So 3 bottles in February was actually a huge improvement.
You did well.
Yeah, how I did before. And then March comes along, and March would have been, I mean, what's today? Today's the 20th. So we have 10 more days, 11 more days. But I think I could have gotten away with a no buy in March if Rouge L'Adore didn't have his release. And that one I kind of struggled with because I knew it was coming out, but I wasn't sure I wanted to blind buy it, because blind buying is also a way that enabled me to spend a lot of money just buying without knowing what the hell it smells like. But for this one, it was my first Rouge L'Adore, and based on the notes and the fact that I'm really into aldehydes at the moment, I was like, you know what? Let me just do it. I haven't purchased anything all month, even though it was at the beginning of the month. But I was like, if I do this, I can't buy anything else. And I bought it, and I actually received it 2 days ago finally, and it's
is that the Chinese oud?
Yeah, so this is the 10 ml. I got the 10 ml version rather than the 30 ml.
I just love his presentation. It's amazing.
I've never seen a 10 ml this beautiful ever.
No.
Those like cheap looking travel sprays, even their travel sprays are the same travel sprays that it's not that special, but this one I felt like, okay, I'm doing, and I'm no regrets on that one at all. And I have no plans to purchase anything for the rest of the month. So hopefully I can stick to that. I feel like I'm getting better and better as time goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. What did I buy? Well, I bought the big bottle, and then I had there was some ones that I wanted. So I had a sample of Sex and Jasmine from Libertine Fragrances. And then that was originally what I was going to buy this month, but I went on to the local perfume shop that stocks them, and they had sold out of Sex and Jasmine. So I think they're waiting to get them back in. Okay. So then I went on, I thought, I'll just wait for that then. And then in the meantime, there was another one that somebody sent me a sample of. And funnily enough, when I first put it on, I was thinking, this is, it's meh. I'm not really that excited about it. But it was just one that I kept going back to. It became quite addictive throughout the day. So, and then I wore it. I used up the whole sample in probably about a week, because I just kept wanting to go back to it. And I just thought, okay, well, maybe. And I had sort of resisted wanting to buy that because it was an expensive bottle. And I'm thinking, do I really want to buy it? So I thought, okay, well, that's going to be the bottle. And then but I hadn't really included, I had this thing in my head where, if I was buying samples and things like that, then that didn't count towards the whole thing. So I bought some stuff from DSH, which obviously hasn't arrived yet. It's going to come from the US. And then I ended up going onto the Libertine Fragrances website and purchasing a couple of oils and samples and stuff from them, because I was, I knew I really loved Sex and Jasmine, but I thought, maybe I should try some of their other stuff first, because there might be something else in the line that I like better. So, and there was another one that was really intriguing me by the description. So I thought, okay, I want to try that. So, rather than spend, because here, the perfumery that stocks them, they only get the big 100 ml bottles. That's all they stock. So I thought, well, I don't really want to just buy a big bottle. I want to try and get some smaller stuff. So I bought that. But then I thought, when I added it up, so I'm keeping a tally every month of stuff that I buy, how much it was, and then, what I'm getting rid of. And I realized that when I buy these samples and stuff, it really does add up pretty quickly. So I probably should be including them as part of my, official budget, I suppose.
So set because I was also thinking the same, like okay, I'm limiting my bottle purchases. Should I also limit my sample set purchases as well? And maybe only say, okay, I'll buy one sample set a month, maybe. I haven't thought that far ahead yet, but I think it's something I should consider. Yeah, because like you said, they add up. They add up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's a dangerous question, but anything that's on your sort of wish list that you know you kind of want, but you're not in a rush to buy, maybe?
Well, one of them actually, you bring up Libertine fragrances, and Maite sent me a sample a while back of Sweet Grass. Is there tobacco, like a green tobacco fragrance? And I really enjoyed that one. So that has been on my list for a while, but I still have a little bit of that sample that Maite sent me. So that's kind of not on my list, but I feel like once I revisit that a couple more times and I finish it, it will be on my list. But things that are on my list as of now, that's actually, I don't know. Because I'm still working on samples. One sample that I really love that I think is going to end up being a purchase, but I'm not sure yet, is Mem by Vogue. I got a sample of that one recently. I thought it was mind blowing.
I really have to try this house, but we can get them here, so I really need to try them.
Okay, that's good. A few other ones, because I have samples here in my desk. I have a bunch of Frederick Malle samples because me and Michelle can't stay away from Frederick Malle. But one that I've been wanting for a while is Carnal Flower. And part of me just wants to get it like now, but I literally have maybe 3 samples of it. So I'm trying to tell myself, you don't need to buy the bottle. Work through the samples first, and then you can get the bottle if you still love it, which I'm sure I will. But I want to at least spend more time, because you never know. What if something happens? I'm like, actually, no, I don't want this. I don't like it. I'd rather it be a sample than it be after I buy a full bottle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to think of another one. Angelique Perfumes has one. She's a brand new indie perfumer out of Washington, I believe, in the Pacific Northwest. And she debuted a collection of 3 fragrances. And one of them is, what is it called? It's Tiger something. I can't remember, and I'm annoyed that I can't remember it. Tiger something. If someone knows, please.
Which house? Sorry, what was that?
Angelique Perfumes. But that one, I think I'm going to get, because I really love that one. I have just a itty bitty little bit left out of my sample. So that one I think is probably going to be my next purchase.
Okay.
I think that's what I can think of at the moment. I mean, there are tons, but then I have to think. There's a lot of Bortnikov, for example, that I really want. But Tiger Bright, yes, thanks, Tara. But I don't. I feel like they're kind of an investment, because Bortnikov fragrances are expensive.
Yes.
So I want to be completely sure that if I buy it, I'm going to wear it. This Chypre de Nord, since I've gotten it, I've been wearing it quite, at least once a week, maybe twice a week. So I just want to keep that in mind when adding new things. Do I really need that? Especially if they're expensive. So
yeah, well, that's exactly it. And so I've been working my way through. I think I've nearly finished my sample of Memoir. But I'm not rushing into that one, because I've also just discovered Opus 9.
That's also
I really, really love that one. Yeah. So I'm going, which one do I like better? I'm trying to decide between them, and then I'll make a decision. So, yeah, that might be one of my next purchases, unless I end up getting Sex and Jasmine. In the next month or so.
I actually want to try, because you're mentioning it. Chris and Camille also mentioned it on, I can't remember which video. I think it was their Soliflor video. Did they do a video on Soliflor?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a few weeks ago, because it was funny, because I was listening to their video the day that I was wearing it. And,
wow.
Because I think Gail, it might have been Gail who, when I did the live with Amina, she mentioned it in the live, and I'm going, I have a sample of that somewhere. I know I do.
Yeah.
So I went looking for it and I found it, and it was funny because then I was listening to Chris and Camille. I was dropping Poppy off at the dog sitter, and I'm listening to their video in the car, and I was like, oh, I'm wearing that right now. And so it was good because I was like, oh, what's Chris? Chris was, describing what he was smelling. I'm going, oh yeah, I really get that too.
Right.
So no, it was really, it's really great. But the other one I really want is Jasmine Antique by Rogue Perfumery. And
I love that.
Yeah, I'm really sad because I did get a sample of that, but it evaporated.
Oh, no.
And so there was like a tiny bit in it when it sort of evaporated. It was empty when it arrived, so I think it must have just leaked or something. But and there was a tiny bit left, and so I did smell it. I did get a chance to smell it, and then what was left kind of evaporated. And then I went back to it a couple of weeks ago, and I was just smelling the vial, and I'm going, this is really, really good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful fragrance. I love Jasmine Antique.
Yeah, but they can only, you used to be able to buy directly from him through Etsy from Australia, but at the moment you can't. And I'm not sure if that's because a perfumery here has picked up a distributorship, but they only stock the 100ml bottles. And I always used to buy the 30ml bottles from him. So I was like, I hope somebody had mentioned that maybe it was just because the shipping costs in the US have gone through the roof because of COVID, so that he might end up shipping again to Australia later. But I figure, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure if the reason he's not shipping to Australia anymore is because he's done a deal with this perfumery. But
have you checked his site directly? Have you checked, because he has I know he used to have an Etsy store, and now he has an actual site. Have you tried?
Oh, no, I haven't. I did not know that.
I'll have to send it to you. Try that and see. I mean, I'm not trying to, enable you to buy it, but I mean,
well, I just didn't want, I just don't really want 100 mils of anything really anymore. I just, no matter how much I like something, I mean, there's only 2 fragrances in my collection where I effectively have backup bottles, and they're not really backup bottles because the Samsara, I have an old vintage bottle, and then I have the red bottle. And then I think the only one I have a backup bottle of is the Unrose Chypre, because I went nuts over that. Then it was depleting very quickly. So I went, I'm going to have to buy another one while I can, because they've obviously been discontinued. So I do have a backup of that. But, other than that, I'm sort of thinking 100 mils of anything is just a complete waste for me now. I don't need that. But there is part of me and I don't know if you've had this issue, even though I know that the important part of the bottle of perfume is the juice and how it smells. But if I've got a bottle in my collection already and I really like the bottle, and I'm thinking I need to get, I want to declutter it, I really struggle. If it's a really pretty bottle, I really struggle to get rid of it.
No, I understand. I think for me, I don't think about that as much. I mean, I totally understand, because I mean, there's a lot of, for example, Roja Dove. And there's one fragrance that I have that I've been thinking about selling, but I've decided not to, because I actually really love the fragrance. I think. I hope it's not the bottle. But I mean, I think for me, I focus more on how the fragrance smells. For example, I love the Xerjoff bottles. I think they're so I don't know, they're so architectural and just, they look like buildings, they're so pretty. And I like the ones that I had, but I wasn't wearing them, and I knew that people would buy them, and I got rid of every single Xerjoff fragrance that I had. Even though they're beautiful to look at, but I was able to kind of, I guess it doesn't matter that much to me, but I can understand a pretty bottle being hard to separate.
Well, and it's completely nonsensical, because it's not like I sit here and look at my perfume cabinet, right? I don't sit here and go, oh, it's so pretty, I don't do that. I just don't. They're on display, yes, but they're not on display to be on display. They're on display so that I can see what I've got and I wear them. That was the rationale behind that. But I don't sit there and go, oh, it's so pretty. I don't do that. I'm usually sniffing them and going, oh, this smells great.
Oh, exactly.
So, that's the one thing I do like about having a bigger collection, is just being able to waltz in here anytime and just start sniffing things. I don't even have to spray them. I just sniff them, and it just makes me feel happy. And Matt laughs at me because I'll do that, and he'll come in. He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm going,
"Nothing,
just smelling my perfumes." And he's just like, "Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy." He said, "Well, at least you're enjoying them." And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. I'm enjoying them." Mihan Aromatics Frag Cheetown, they're pretty good actually, but they aren't cheap. I think I have some samples actually from a discovery set. I don't own a bottle, but they're very different. I think I liked the Petri something. I don't know. It was meant to smell like the Australian bush after the rain, and they did an amazing job of it. So they are petrichor or something, I think it's called. So they're really beautiful fragrance. I haven't tried the newest one, but somebody has sent me a sample of that, so I should try it. Okay. The Munlark Ash, I think, is the new one. But I don't know, if you can get samples, it's worth sampling them. But they aren't they're not sort of mainstream perfumes, so they're not going to smell. Nothing is safe to buy blindly. Okay, but they are very beautiful. They're fairly, if I recall correctly, they're fairly light wearing, so they're not sort of really punchy or anything like that. Although that one sounds like it might have some, smoky sort of vibe going on. So maybe that would be a bit stronger. But the other ones were all kind of very watery, beautiful fragrances, but sort of very watery and kind of light wearing. So definitely worth sort of trying to get samples if you can. But I don't know. I don't know if they ship overseas.
I've never heard of them actually. I feel like maybe I should look them up, but do I need to look them up? I don't know. Well,
well, they only have a few bottles. I think there's only like 5 or 6 in their whole range, so they're fairly new. They only started a couple of years ago, so they're very nice. But I don't remember them being, So I see that. You wanted the performance question, so I didn't find them to be really projecting and very long wearing. I think they were sort of more personal kind of fragrances. I really liked them, but I obviously didn't buy them. So there we go. Gail's answered my question. There we go. That's the one. Thanks, Gail.
I have to look them up.
Yeah, so I guess we've kind of covered pretty much everything that I wanted to grill you on, because I was curious to know what your process is with this low buy thing. And it's the finishing the samples, I think, is a key thing, because there was another sample I tried last week, and it's a little bit like, I guess, your Bengal Rouge, where I tried it the first day and I was like, I love this, and then the next day I tried it and I'm going, I don't know if I love that so much, and I haven't gone back to it yet. So I was going, oh, I'm glad I wore it again, because if I had bought it just off the basis of that first thing, maybe it would have been a bad choice. So, but it did just remind me. It was a very timely reminder for myself to just make sure that I'm sampling them on different days in different conditions, and before I make a decision, because some days, and there's always going to be days, even with my most favorite perfumes, where I just don't feel like wearing them, like I don't feel like wearing that perfume. I want to wear something else, even though, like Beloved Woman, pretty much any day I could pick that up and wear it. But there have been days where I've picked it up and gone, I don't really feel like wearing that today, so I put it back. And I think, okay, there's always going to be, days like that. Doesn't mean I don't like it, but then if there's always going to be days like that, then maybe I don't need to rush out and buy it either.
Exactly. That's a great point. Great point. But I'm happy, that I actually, because last year, there were times last year where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a no buy. And then that only lasted for like 2-3 days. And then here I am ordering something else. So I'm glad that, I don't know why though, like why this year triggered me really, honing down and looking at it differently. I'm glad it's happened, but I don't know. I don't think I could. I think it's the whole financial thing, perhaps, because I know that I have lots of goals, especially now that I just started working. I feel like maybe I need to. Maybe I'm doing it subconsciously in my head, where once I start making like steady income, I don't just go even more crazy. That
yes,
I build this habit. So now I'm going to be getting more regular income, that I'm not just like, oh, well, I can do it and I can do it, and just start blowing it. So I think that's why I'm doing it. I'm going to say that's the reason why this sounds logical.
Yeah. Oh, no, it does sound, it is logical, because it's so easy to just slip into a completely new buying habit, and before you know it, all, as you say, all that extra regular income that you're now getting just sort of evaporates, and you don't notice it. It's like the buying a coffee a day thing, right? You think, oh, it's just a little bit, and I've still got extra cash left over, but then it gets out of hand. So yeah, it's been very comforting. Thank you, Tara, for confirming that March was your hard month as well when you first did your no buy a couple of years ago. So that kind of makes me feel better, because I was really struggling this month. I'm going, God, am I just a complete shopping addict? And I think probably I am. But I mean, the other thing too was that it went from perfume and then kind of morphed into plants. And so now I've had to do the same thing with the plants as well. Although plants is easier because you can propagate them. You don't have to buy them. You can actually keep growing them yourself. Sure. So that's, and that was kind of fun to learn how to propagate them and start growing my own. But it's still, it's still an expensive exercise. You still have to buy all the gear. You've got to get the pots. You've got to get the potting mix.
Soil.
So it's one thing to say, oh, I want to live in an indoor jungle, but then your indoor jungle needs to be fed and watered and repotted every few months, and so, and they grow bigger, and then they need space. So that's and then the space thing becomes an issue as well. So currently in my office, I've got perfume competing with plants for space. So anyway, so I'll stick with it, Tara. Don't worry.
We're here to support. We'll be fine. You got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's actually been really sort of therapeutic to talk to somebody about your how you're feeling about it all, and why you're doing it and how it's going. So thank you for that.
No, this is good. This is good.
Great.
And thanks for everyone in the comments for, sharing your input and your experience. I was hoping, or expecting rather, it be a good discussion, and I was reading the chats on the side, so it looks like y'all shared, a little bit about our, like their buying habits and stuff like that. So
thank you. It was really good. I will have to catch up on all the chat stuff when maybe after I've finished the live, but it has been really good, and it's amazing actually how supportive everybody is, because I was a little bit worried about doing this live stream, because I thought, oh, we're opening ourselves up here for judgment. But as always, everyone has been fantastic, and it's nice to know that we're not the only ones that are going through this. All right. Well, it's Saturday night for you. Any plans?
My uncle's doing a barbecue, so
nice.
I'm gonna head straight over there. We haven't had a barbecue because we're a family who loves to cook. And my uncles live nearby. We all live like within a 5-mile radius of each other. So back in the day, we used to do barbecues almost every weekend, but we haven't because of the whole COVID thing, even though we're family, we try to, kind of stay apart, but we're doing something today. So I'm excited. I'm ready for whatever it's going to be. I don't know what it is. I should probably call and see if they want me to bring something instead of showing up empty-handed.
Nice. Well, enjoy that.
Thank you.
I would love to be having a barbecue today, but it is bucketing down with rain, so I doubt that's going to happen today. Might be soup day today instead.
Yeah.
Terrific.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you guys.